My name is Emily Carter. I am 34 years old, and at 2:19 in the morning, on a freezing Thursday, my younger sister stood in my entryway holding the keys to my SUV and asked me to confess to a crime she had committed. One headlight was shattered, a dark scrape crossed the front bumper, and a thin red mark ran along the hood. "He came out of nowhere," she whispered. "I barely touched him." Then she admitted she had driven away. Before I could answer, our mother pushed through the door, grabbed my shoulders, and said, "Just tell the police you were driving." Our father arrived moments later, speaking with the calm authority he used whenever he wanted something unforgivable to sound practical. "Your sister has a future ahead of her," he said. "You have nothing to lose." They still believed I was the family disappointment. They had no idea that 4 weeks earlier, inside a federal courthouse, I had taken an oath to administer justice without fear, favor, or family influence. My sister glanced around my modest apartment, glanced at my old sweatshirt, and smiled. "Who would believe you anyway?" she asked. She did not know the SUV had already recorded the collision, the conversation inside the vehicle, and the route she had taken after leaving a wounded man bleeding in the street. And before sunrise, the lie my family wanted me to carry would reveal exactly who they were. But before I tell you what they tried next, tell me, what time is it where you are right now? And where are you listening from? Because I want to know how far this story travels. My sister's name was Vanessa Carter, and for most of our lives, our parents had treated her like a family investment. At 30 years old, she was running for a seat on the city council. Her campaign built around accountability and safer streets. Our mother, Margaret, chaired 3 community boards and introduced Vanessa to every stranger as the future of public service. Our father, Robert, had spent 25 years advising local candidates and believed every crisis could be controlled as long as the right story reached the public first. In their version of our family, Vanessa was the future, and I was the warning. They told friends I had dropped out of law school, though the truth was I had transferred, graduated with honors, clerked for a federal judge, spent 6 years as a prosecutor, and quietly built a career they never bothered to understand. Eventually, I stopped explaining myself. That night, Vanessa had borrowed my SUV, claiming a photographer had followed her from a donor event, and I agreed, because some old, tired part of me still responded whenever she said, "Please, I need my sister." At 11:40, she texted that she would return the car in the morning. At 2:19, she was standing in my doorway instead, smelling faintly of perfume, peppermint gum, and red wine. "Tell me exactly what happened," I said. "I already told you." "No, you gave me the version you wanted," repeated. Her frightened expression vanished, replaced by the composed, camera-ready face she used during hostile interviews. "I was driving west on Route 9. A man stepped into the road, the pavement was icy, and I could not stop in time. Did you call for help? No. Did you even stop the car? Vanessa?" I slowed down. I saw him move, so he was moving. "And you drove away anyway." Our mother tightened her grip on her handbag. "This interrogation is not helping anyone. It is not an interrogation. Mother, a man was struck by my vehicle, and she left him there." Our father walked to the window and looked down at the empty street. "The SUV is registered to you, Emily. That gives us a simple path forward. You tell the police you were behind the wheel. We hire an attorney, and we call it an accident caused by poor visibility." I stared at him. "You already have a story prepared. I have spent 2 decades managing crises. This is not a campaign crisis, father. Someone is lying in a hospital bed right now." Vanessa folded her arms. "You always make everything so dramatic." "There is blood on the hood of my car, Vanessa." My mother leaned in and whispered, "Keep your voice down. The neighbors do not need to hear this." And in that single sentence, I understood exactly where her priorities lived. Not with the man lying injured, not with my freedom, but with whether the neighbors might overhear us. My phone buzzed quietly. A courthouse security notification lit the screen. "Motion detected. Vehicle camera synchronization complete." My SUV had come with a factory collision system, but months earlier, after a threat connected to an organized crime case I had prosecuted, judicial security had quietly installed encrypted cameras with automatic cloud backup. The system activated after any sudden impact. Vanessa had no idea it existed. I turned the phone face down. My father kept talking as though my confession had already been signed. "The police will see your history of conflict with this family. Vanessa will say, she came here after you called her. You are proposing that 4 people give coordinated false statements. We are protecting the family," he said. "No. You are deciding which member of this family is disposable tonight." Vanessa asked whether I thought she had been drinking, and our father answered for her. "She was under the legal limit." "You cannot know that. We know our daughter," he said, but they did not know whether she had been intoxicated when she left a human being bleeding in a crosswalk Vanessa stepped closer. You owe me. For what? For leaving. I stayed here. I carried this family while you disappeared. For a moment, I understood her resentment. Then she said, Dad is right. You have no public reputation left to protect. If the man you struck tonight were someone we loved, would you still call this a small mistake? Nobody answered. At 3:15, my father moved everyone into the living room and began assigning roles like a campaign war room. He told my mother to call Vanessa's campaign manager and claim she had food poisoning. He told Vanessa to delete any messages mentioning my SUV. Then he asked for my phone. We need to know what is already circulating. You want to conceal evidence. His jaw tightened. Do not use courtroom language in this house. For years, he had mocked my career as meaningless paperwork, and now he was offended. I understood the legal weight of what he was asking. My phone buzzed again. A message from James Foster, the judicial security officer assigned to protect me. Automated collision alert received from your registered vehicle. Please confirm you are safe. I typed back, I am safe. The vehicle was borrowed. Please preserve all uploaded footage. His reply came within a minute. Confirmed, preservation lock initiated. I kept that message to myself because I wanted to see how far my own family would go once they believed the truth belonged only to them. My mother's phone rang, and she stepped into the kitchen. Though my apartment was small enough we could still hear her. No, she is here with us. She is safe. And then her voice changed. A video. How clear is it? Everyone went still. A campaign volunteer had heard that a neighbor's doorbell camera might have caught part of the accident. The footage was dark, but this SUV in it looked exactly like mine. Vanessa stared at me. Do your neighbors even have cameras? Most buildings do now, my father pointed at her. Then Emily reports the damage before police contact her. Voluntary disclosure makes her look responsible. Vanessa's fear curdled into anger. You said no one saw me. I said I did not see anyone. What were you doing right before the impact? Nothing. Were you on your phone? No. Were you speeding? I do not know. Were you alone? Yes. And she answered that last question far too quickly. Years of cross-examining witnesses had taught me that speed rarely meant honesty. Sometimes it only meant rehearsal. My father grabbed an envelope and began sketching a timeline. Emily left the reception at 1:15. The accident happened around 1:40. She panicked and called Vanessa afterward. You told me a moment ago. Vanessa came here after hearing about the accident, I reminded him. He stopped writing. My mother looked between us. Which version sounds better? And that single question chilled me more than anything else that night. They were not debating whether to lie anymore. They were editing which lie would sell. And then Vanessa made a mistake. Daniel said the street was completely empty, she blurted. Who is Daniel? No one. She said too fast. You told me you were alone. I misspoke. This is not relevant. It becomes relevant, I said. When four people are constructing a false timeline together, my father's phone buzzed. The victim is alive, he said. Relief crossed Vanessa's face for exactly 1 second. Then this does not have to become a major case, she said. A man survived being hit by a car, and your first thought is the consequences might be smaller. My father stepped between us. Emily, will you help your sister? No, Vanessa stood slowly. Then I will tell the police you were driving. Her threat came out calm, because she believed calmness would make it convincing. Are you certain I am lying? And for the first time that night, she hesitated. At 4:30, Vanessa's campaign manager arrived. His name was Daniel Reeves, and the moment I saw him in my doorway, I understood exactly why she had lied about being alone. He was polished, visibly nervous, and married to the daughter of one of Vanessa's largest donors. His hand shook as he pulled off his gloves. What is he doing here? He is helping us manage the situation. Daniel glanced at the keys. We need to contain this. You were in the SUV. Vanessa had told everyone the street was empty. Daniel took a long breath. I was in the passenger seat. I told her to slow down. Were you drinking? 2 drinks. My father interrupted loudly. We are not conducting interviews here. No, father, you are coordinating testimony. And Daniel's expression changed, because unlike the rest of my family, he understood exactly how serious that phrase was. What do you do for a living? Daniel asked quietly. She writes reports, Vanessa said with a small laugh. I present evidence to grand juries, examine witnesses under oath, and argue sentencing motions in federal court. My mother frowned. Why are you telling us this now? Because you are asking me to commit multiple felonies, while assuming I am too insignificant to recognize them. False reporting, obstruction, evidence tampering, and coordinated statements are federal crimes. Father, Vanessa stepped toward me, her voice shaking. You think you can lecture me after what you did 9 years ago? I knew what she meant. She had once used my name to cover for property damage she caused, and I had quietly paid for it, believing I was protecting her. Instead, I had simply taught her that my identity was available whenever hers became inconvenient. You covered for me once. You can do it again. That was property damage. No one was hurt. You still lied for me. Yes, and it was wrong. My father seized on that admission instantly. So your morality has limits. It has a history. Vanessa's face hardened. You were happy enough to help back then, when it made you feel needed. I believe you need us far more than we need you, she said. You have no husband, no children, no public life, and no one in this city even knows your name. Our father has connections, our mother has the community, and I have supporters. If all four of us say you were driving, who do you think the police will believe? Daniel stared at her. Vanessa, stop, she pointed at me. She wants a fight. Fine. We say Emily took the car after the reception, that she was unstable and possibly intoxicated. My own mother did not reject that idea. Instead, she quietly asked whether reporting the vehicle stolen might create complications. And that was the moment I stopped seeing frightened relatives and started seeing four willing participants. I walked toward my home office. My father followed. You are not calling anyone right now, he said, reaching for my arm. I looked at his hand until he lowered it, then opened the office door. My black robe hung behind it. My judicial commission sat framed beneath the federal seal, and on the desk sat an engraved plaque that read, "The Honorable Emily R. Carter, United States Magistrate Judge." Nobody spoke. What is that? My commission. You are a judge, a federal judge. My mother stared like she was seeing a stranger. You never told us. I told you. You were busy preparing Vanessa for a debate that week. My father recovered fastest. Then you understand discretion better than any of us. Use it to protect this family. You want a sitting federal judge to file a false report. I want my family protected. You want influence without accountability. If this becomes public, it could damage you too. That part is true. You could lose everything if I simply tell them you were driving. I will not lose anything for telling the truth. I opened the security application. A map displayed the SUV's exact route, the impact timestamp, speed data, camera status, and preservation confirmation. The vehicle recorded the entire collision, exterior video, interior audio, GPS history, braking data, and images from both front seats had uploaded automatically. The files were already locked on a secure judicial server. Vanessa's confidence drained from her face. Daniel whispered, "Interior audio, yes." "You knew about this?" my father demanded. "I knew it recorded an impact. I did not know what the footage contained until tonight. You let us keep talking. I did not force anyone to invent a timeline, delete evidence, threaten me, or discuss framing me for a crime. And if you think that was the worst of it, stay with me. Because what that footage actually showed, once investigators reviewed it later that day, turned out to be far worse than anyone in that room expected. Emily, please do not do this." "I have done nothing, Mother. Vanessa was driving, Daniel was present, and every one of you decided my life was an acceptable shield. You hire an attorney who represents your interests, preserve every message, stop contacting witnesses, and surrender and tell the truth. You would destroy your own sister over this. No, I am refusing to let her destroy someone else, and call it loyalty afterward." By 8 that morning, the injured man had been identified as 62-year-old Michael Turner, a maintenance supervisor walking home after icy roads canceled his usual bus route. He had a fractured leg, several broken ribs, and a head injury doctors were still monitoring. They expected him to survive, but could not yet say whether the trauma would leave permanent damage. While his family waited anxiously at the hospital, mine was still discussing donor relations and polling numbers. And that contrast finally erased whatever hesitation remained in me. Vanessa hired a defense attorney named Laura Simmons, who arrived a little after 9, listened to a limited account, and immediately ordered everyone to stop talking. She warned my parents their earlier conversation could become evidence. If investigators uncovered coordination, private conversations become evidence, Ms. Simmons said, the moment they involve concealing a crime. Your daughter used a federally monitored judge's vehicle, triggered a protective security system, and allegedly discussed providing false information to police. Hearing my title spoken aloud brought no satisfaction. It only exposed how completely they had ignored my life for years. 2 detectives arrived just after 10:30. Detective Sarah Mitchell interviewed me privately. I identified myself, disclosed my position on the bench, and requested no professional courtesy of any kind. "Did you know she had been drinking?" "No. A witness placed your SUV near the donor venue at 12:58. A traffic camera recorded it, traveling nearly 60 miles an hour through a 35-mile-an-hour zone. Moments before the collision, Vanessa had told me the pedestrian appeared out of nowhere. Then Detective Mitchell added quietly, "Your sister contacted police earlier tonight and suggested you may have taken the vehicle after the reception. And there it was, even after seeing the preserved data herself. Vanessa had still tried to place me behind that wheel. She said she was uncertain, but suggested you had access to the vehicle and might have been emotionally distressed. I was home all night. My building's cameras, alarm logs, and entry system will confirm it. After the interview, I found my parents sitting in the dining room. My father closed the door. You need to correct this immediately. Correct what? The detective clearly believes Vanessa intentionally tried to blame you. She did blame me. She was frightened. She was strategic. My mother lowered her voice. Reporters are already asking questions. Then she should suspend her campaign. Absolutely not. A candidate who built her platform on public safety left an injured man in the road and misled the police about it. Allegedly, I saw the SUV myself, father, and heard her confession. You are her sister before you are anything else. I am both. Being her sister does not obligate me to be dishonest. You knew exactly what she represented to this family. Yes, she was your investment, and I was apparently your insurance policy. My mother began crying quietly. We thought Vanessa needed more support, and you assumed I needed none. Because I finally stopped asking for it. I graduated near the top of my class, clerked for a federal court, prosecuted corruption cases for 6 years, and became a sitting federal judge, and you both interpreted every achievement you chose to ignore as proof I had accomplished nothing. Now you think that title makes you better than the rest of us. No, it taught me that titles reveal almost nothing about a person. What people choose to do the moment truth becomes expensive, that reveals everything. Vanessa walked in with red, swollen eyes. Miss Simmons says the footage could destroy me. The footage will simply show what actually happened. That is the same thing. No, it is not. Investigators reviewed the recording that afternoon. 2 hours later, Miss Simmons announced Vanessa would provide a fully corrected statement. The evidence was far worse than anything she had admitted. Interior footage showed her drinking from a small silver flask while driving. Daniel could be heard repeatedly telling her to slow down, and she had been reading campaign messages on her phone. At the exact moment her SUV struck Michael Turner inside a marked crosswalk. After the impact, Daniel yelled for her to stop and call an ambulance. Instead, Vanessa pulled over half a block away, looked back, and said quietly, "If I stay here, my campaign is finished." Then she drove into a parking garage to examine the damage and called our father through the vehicle's hands-free system. That call had also been recorded. In it, my father told her to drive straight to my apartment because the SUV was registered under my name. She has no visible career left to protect, he said calmly. We can contain the damage around her. My mother joined the call and said I would cooperate. Once they reminded me how much the family had carried for me, my father answered without hesitation. Then we simply make her refusal look like guilt. The detectives returned that evening with warrants for several devices. Officers collected my father's phone, my mother's tablet, Vanessa's laptop, and Daniel's work phone. Daniel had already surrendered his device and begun negotiating a cooperation agreement of his own. When Vanessa learned that, she called him a traitor. He told you to stop the car. He is protecting himself. Exactly what every one of you expected me to do for you tonight. Vanessa gave her fully corrected interview at the police station that evening, while I waited quietly in a separate room, purely as a witness. Courthouse Ethics Council had already arranged a temporary reassignment of my active cases. Shortly before 6 o'clock, Detective Mitchell returned. Your sister has admitted to driving, leaving the scene, and making misleading statements. She claims your father actively pressured her to identify you as the driver. He suggested the plan, I said quietly, but she still chose to follow it. I asked carefully about Michael Turner. He regained consciousness this afternoon. Relief hit me so hard I had to grip the edge of the table. He remembers the vehicle driving away. His family has requested full privacy going forward. There is one more matter. Your sister claims you installed the security cameras specifically to monitor her. That is completely false. Judicial Security installed that system months earlier, after a documented threat assessment, and those installation records predate her use of the vehicle entirely. So, even while confessing, Vanessa had tried one last time to make the evidence itself sound corrupted. When we returned to my parents' house, reporters had gathered outside. Vanessa's campaign issued a statement suspending her candidacy indefinitely, citing a serious personal matter. Daniel's attorney confirmed he had been a passenger who urged the driver to stop. Vanessa watched the news vans through the curtains. This is completely over, she whispered. My father spent the evening calling donors. My mother deleted old photographs from her charity website, and neither of them, not once, mentioned Michael Turner by name. Stop treating public exposure as the worst outcome here. That is easy for you to say, Vanessa said bitterly. You hid your entire life from us until you became untouchable. I am not untouchable. My own cases were reassigned today because your actions created a genuine ethical conflict for me. This was never revenge, Father. It looks exactly like revenge to me. Revenge would have meant using my position to punish her directly. Instead, I simply stepped aside and let the evidence speak for itself. You could have destroyed that recording tonight. And the room went completely silent because he had just openly admitted exactly what he was still hoping I would do. Healthy families protect people from real danger. This family protected Vanessa from accountability instead, and quietly decided everyone else was expendable. Do not speak about us as though we are criminals, my mother snapped. You discussed false testimony, deleting evidence, and framing me for a crime I did not commit. What word would you prefer I use instead? Vanessa covered her ears. Please stop. No. You wanted me to carry this weight silently tonight. Now you are finally going to hear how heavy it actually was. For years, you told me I had nothing to lose. Tonight, you used that imagined emptiness to justify sacrificing me entirely, even if I had no title, no savings, and no one waiting for me at home. My life would still never belong to any of you, Vanessa finally whispered. I am sorry. Are you sorry that you hit him? Sorry that you left him there? Sorry that you blamed me? Or simply sorry the recording exists at all? She could not answer. Vanessa withdrew from the city council race. The very next morning, prosecutors formally charged her with leaving the scene of an accident involving serious injury, reckless driving, making false statements, and several evidence-related offenses. The real consequences began almost immediately. Donors demanded their contributions back, and party leaders publicly distanced themselves within days. Daniel entered a formal cooperation agreement, confirming he had not been driving, and lost his position with the campaign, but unlike Vanessa, he never once tried to blame me. After the evidence came to light, my father became the subject of a formal investigation. Because of his own recorded instructions, for the first time in his life, he faced a system that did not care how persuasive he sounded. His longtime clients quietly ended their relationships with him, and his professional association suspended his membership. My mother was never criminally charged, but the organizations she once controlled no longer treated her name as untouchable. She told relatives I had betrayed our family by allowing private panic to become public evidence. She never once said Vanessa had struck Michael Turner. She only ever said the footage became public, and even then, she still could not describe what happened without quietly blaming the one persons who refused to repeat their lie. Michael spent several weeks in rehabilitation. Through his attorney, I sent him a brief, private letter expressing my regret and promising to respect his family's privacy. I did not ask for forgiveness because it was never mine to receive. This story was never meant to celebrate a judge for following her basic ethical duties. It was always about a man whose life had nearly been treated as less valuable than a political campaign. The courthouse reviewed my conduct and cleared me, though I was reminded that public confidence depends on visible independence, as much as actual fairness. Weeks later, on my first morning, back on the bench, I stood alone in my chambers and thought quietly about the night Vanessa first appeared at my door. My family had believed my robe would become a weapon they could use against me. It never was. The most powerful thing I possessed that night was simply the ability to say no, before knowing whether anyone would stand beside me for it. For most of my life, I had confused endurance with loyalty. I believed being the stronger sister meant quietly absorbing every insult, solving every crisis, and asking for absolutely nothing in return. Each time I protected Vanessa from consequences, I told myself I was somehow saving our relationship. In reality, I had simply helped build a relationship where her future always mattered more than my own boundaries. My silence never created any real peace between us. It only ever created permission. Vanessa wrote to me 4 months later. Her letter explained the campaign pressure, our father's control, our mother's obsession with appearances, and the fear that had shaped her adult life, but she also admitted she had smiled that night, asking who would believe me. Specifically to make me feel small, she admitted she had long mistaken attention for love, and protection for entitlement. I read her letter twice and placed it in a drawer. I did not visit her, and made no promises of reconciliation. Forgiveness offered too quickly can become another shield against accountability. My parents sent messages through relatives. My mother insisted the family needed healing. My father claimed public humiliation had punished everyone enough. Neither ever apologized without attaching an excuse. I eventually sent them one final response. I will not participate in healing that requires me to forget what happened. I will consider contact once each of you accepts full responsibility, without blaming fear, politics, pressure, or me. Until then, do not come to my home or my courthouse. My father called that cruel. My mother called it cold, I simply called it a boundary. 6 months later, Vanessa accepted a plea agreement that included incarceration, probation, restitution of nearly $90,000, community service, and a long-term driving restriction. Her political career was permanently over, and no sentence could ever repair Michael's injuries or restore what remained of our relationship. Justice rarely returns people to the lives they had before real harm occurred. Its purpose is simply to show that actions carry lasting meaning. My father avoided the most serious charges, but entered a separate agreement connected to obstruction. His professional reputation never recovered. For two people who had always valued image above truth, losing control of their own story became a consequence neither of them could dismiss. I sold that SUV not long after the investigation closed. Some objects carry heavy memories long after every repair has technically been completed. I also moved my judicial commission out of my private office and into the entryway of my new home. Not because I needed visitors to be impressed by it, but because I had spent far too many years quietly hiding my own achievements, simply to protect other people's comfort, and the lesson I carried forward was simple. Blind loyalty is never the same thing as love. Loyalty without accountability only protects harmful patterns. It does not protect actual people. When a family asks one person to surrender their dignity, their freedom, or the plain truth, so someone else can escape consequences, that is never unity, it is exploitation, disguised as sacrifice. Integrity does not mean abandoning the people you love the moment they fail you. It means refusing to help them transform that failure into deliberate deception. My family had genuinely believed I had nothing left to lose that night. They were completely wrong, and even if I had possessed nothing at all, I still would have had something none of them ever had any right to take from me: my own conscience. Vanessa's final mistake was believing that years of favoritism had made her more credible than the sister our family had quietly chosen to ignore. She thought real power came from campaigns, donors, and parents willing to repeat whatever story she needed told. What she learned the hard way is that real power can be remarkably quiet. Sometimes it is nothing more than a locked recording, or one preserved fact, or simply one person standing in a crowded room, calmly refusing to carry a lie any further. In the end, I did not defeat my own sister. The truth did that on its own. I simply stopped protecting her from it. So I will ask you honestly, the same question I have carried with me ever since that freezing morning: if you were standing in my place, would you protect your sister? Would you protect yourself? Or would you protect the truth? And more importantly, what price would you actually be willing to pay for that choice? Thank you for watching this story here on Heartly Stories. This video was created purely for entertainment and reflection, and every character, name, and event depicted here is entirely fictional. If this story reminded you of your own family, we hope it reminds you that being disappointed by someone you once trusted does not mean you should stop trusting yourself. If anything, let it teach you to listen more closely to the instincts you may have ignored. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to Heartly Stories for more tales of family, justice, and quiet strength, and we will see you in the next story.